You want to be the cool kid at the next cookout or other such outdoor gathering where canned beer is the norm? Bring a few six-packs of these puppies. Pale Dog, brewed by Hops and Grain in Austin, Texas. While I'm enjoying a Pale Dog on draft for this episode, the can presentation is every bit as deliciously hoppy and fresh as it is out of the tap. Pale Dog, as its name suggests, is a pale ale. It's got plenty of flavor with an IBU of 55, yet it's still light enough to enjoy 3 or 4 over the course of a session without feeling like you've wrecked your palate for the next week. With a 6% ABV, it does pack a respectable thump, so session responsibly. I'm Mike Langford, and this is Locapour, a show about locally brewed craft beer. Today I'm joined by Brandy Egli, co-owner, co-founder, and the better half of Craft Pride, as they say. Brandy chose the Pale Dog for this episode, and she chose wisely. Her wisdom goes well beyond the beer choice, however, as her vision is on display everywhere you look at Craft Pride. From the kick-ass wallpaper, to the live oak bar, beer bottle chandeliers, and the reclaimed curly pine wood seen throughout this place, she's created an environment that is both edgy and inviting, kind of like the craft beer industry itself. But don't go thinking that Brandy is just a decorator. She's got major business chops, and she's likely forgotten more about beer than most of us will ever know. So let's meet her.
Brandy, thank you so much for inviting us here to Craft Pride.
You're
I'm
welcome.
so looking forward to talking to you and sharing this story because it's just such a wonderful place to be at. First of all, let's start with the beer that we're enjoying, and then we'll dive into like the awesomeness that is Craft Pride.
Awesome.
So what are we drinking today?
This is Pale Dog by Hops and Grain, and I really like it this time of year because it's crisp yet dry, so it's not, going to be over sweet or just.
I'm getting into it.
Yeah, it's just really nice.
I agree with you. It's very fresh, very crisp. The dryness, I hadn't thought about the dry.
It delivers a good flavor, and then it just kind of just lets you enjoy it.
Yeah, because you really kind
Just
of feel
kind of
like
hangs
right.
out, lets you enjoy the flavor.
So let's dive into Craft Pride. I've got so many ways to describe this place. Labor of love, just like a passion creation between yourself and JT, your husband.
Yeah.
Husband and wife team owning a business. I love that story. So there's a little romance and business and coolness to it. Tell me a little bit about like how this vision came to be here in Austin.
Well, JT and I had the opportunity to start over in life, and what we had been doing before, opposite schedules, we were never together. We just really ended up hating that. We decided to do something together. We weren't quite sure at that time what it was going to be. We also really enjoyed wine. So we thought maybe we'd do something with wine and that brewing beer was just a hobby. My cousin, Forrest Rogness, lives in Austin before we did. We would call him and we'd talk about recipes and we place orders, and he knew that we were looking for an opportunity to start over together and knew that meant probably leaving Iowa.
Okay.
And he encouraged us to come down here for a visit. So we came down here for a week, tasted some of the craft beer, went home, started packing, and so then we moved down here in August of 2010, and still with the plan of moving forward with wine. October was the very first American Craft Beer Week. We tasted so many amazing beers, and JT and I were it's like we would talk about the craft beer more than we would the project with wine that we were thinking about at the time. And by December, we had completely changed our business plan, wholeheartedly believed that we needed to build a bar just for Texas craft beer, and never looked back.
You have the vision of and recognizing the opportunity. The mainstream is starting to wake up to the fact that craft beer is something much better than what they're used to.
Right.
And people are willing to spend their money on it. As an entrepreneur, you're like, hey, listen, people are willing to spend more money on craft beer, good craft beer, and experiencing it in a better environment.
Yeah.
And then you pick a particular city that is very much about kind of keeping it local. Right? I love your entrepreneurial story, that whole concept of like, hey, let's get out of here, let's move to this new place.
Pretty ballsy.
It is. So I completely applaud that type of approach. One of the things that intrigued me the first time I walked in this door was, wow, this place is different. It's not just the beer. It is craft everywhere. You have put so much love and attention and focus on, well, let's say, artisanship into every detail of this place. I mean, take us through some of the things that you did here to make this place special.
A lot of our personality is really expressed with the decisions we made, and some of it was just that we wanted to recycle it. Over 95% of the wood on the walls that you see is actually extinct wood. The curly pine and the longleaf pine, it just doesn't grow anymore. We spent a lot of time hanging out with the crew and just talking about, what this project meant to us and, what we were really trying to express here. And so we would give them a little creative freedom. We'd tell them what we envisioned and what we wanted, and then we'd be like, okay, now let's see how you interpret that. So they might make a little sample, or like, actually this wall behind us ended up being a sample wall of what we expressed to Gabe. I call him the wood wizard. We expressed to him what we saw or wanted, and we wanted to see his interpretation of that. And then we left, and when he was done putting it together, he called us back, and we walked in, and he just got it. He got us.
Yeah. It's the same thing your craft brewers are experiencing, which is, hey, I have this vision for this delicious beverage, and for you as a business person, hey, I've got this vision as an entrepreneur for a business, but I also want it to have the craft, the artisanship that really resonates with my soul, right?
Right. That's my favorite thing about craft beer is the creativity, the crafting, because there's so much heart and soul that's put into it. It really means something. And I mean, opening this bar, I mean, we could have done some other venture or some other type of bar and, just be rolling in the dough, but that's not what we're about. Anything that I'm going to be involved with, it has to mean something. Right. Craft beer, I think that's what clicked for me. That's how I connect to craft beer, because there is that passion and just that feeling, especially getting together with the craft beer community. It just feels like a big family.
Right. There's a rising tide lifts all ships type of mentality of like, hey, we're in this together because we're craft brewers. We're craft beer proprietors, right? If I succeed, you succeed. Right. We're all passionate about the same thing, and we're making slightly different things.
Yes.
And you're serving a variety of things.
Right, because of their own creativity and passion, each brewery is able to set themselves apart from the others, so that makes competition very easy.
So let's switch back to the beer a little bit here. I'm trying to think about the moment in which I'd be craving this beer now. Like, hey, I want Pale Dog versus something else. This feels a little bit, to me, like a late night watching my favorite, guilty pleasure TV show, drinking beer. What kind of mood are you in when you think of this beer? What's the zone where you're like, I need to have a Pale Dog versus something else, some other IPA?
There are times where it's my time to sit down and just enjoy it, and this beer really just hangs out on my palate. Between every sip, I'm still enjoying it. Sure. And some beers, just wash right down, which, I mean, they're still wonderful, but with a little drier finish, I like that in beer and wine too. It just kind of holds and lets you enjoy it a little bit longer. So I guess maybe that kind of mood when I'm not needing to be focused so much on everything and everyone else, I can just sit back and just think about what's on my palate.
Yeah. One last thing that I can think about is like, what would I pair this with? I'm kind of thinking burger with this, like a juicy burger, and the dryness kind of complements.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're thinking food-wise when you go with this.
I would agree with that because it is a dry, kind of halting finish, and it's hanging out there, and just talking, I'm still tasting it. Something juicy like that, burger with a little bit of fat, it would also kind of get in there in the palate and really kind of meld those tastes together. So yeah, I'd say a food that's not as equally dry.
Sure.
You'd want something, a little wetter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it was wonderful having you on the show. Thank you again.
Cheers.
Look forward to doing more episodes here.
Yes, please.